Now, good evening, everyone. So, we'll continue with our class. This is a recorded video of our supposedly class on Monday, but because of we don't have much more time, so I will be recording just some of the lessons ready on in the video. So, this will be the one we'll be doing later on. Come on. Now, the chapter 4 was systematic approach to teaching, meaning how you're going to teach. So, there are a system of steps that you have to follow from defining objectives, unsa may gusto nimo kwaon yun, ang gusto makakuha nimo ma-achieve sa mga bata, and then you're going to evaluate the outcome. So if you have noticed, all of the steps, at the center is the students. So kuan jud siya, student centered ang systematized instruction. So if we evaluate the outcome, if the objectives are not achieved, dili makuha siya, that's the time that you're going to refine the process. Maybe there are problems or any one of the steps here na pwede you can change para can really achieve or attain the goals of attain the objectives that you are define mo daan. So, dire, sa next page, which is the chapter page 3, they have samples of learning activities and also the learning resources for instructional use. So if you have noticed, goal na siya from gadgets to TVs to computers to traditional IMs. Now, for our lessons, first demo ninyo, you'll be using traditional IMs. Okay, what if nga, if you are assigned on a powerful school, which is there's no electricity, there's no current, there's no electricity, there's no computers, saan mo na, how are you going to teach the lesson if you're just uli pa nimo usa ka maka-charge noon pwede lahi pa maagi gyapon mag solar ka pero how many hours pa ka magamit nimo, so really have fine way. So ang purpose po nako mag-traditional IMs kay kung mag-demo mo sa DepEd pohon, what if there are at least you will have your plan is using your PowerPoint and using your all of the primary resources nimo. Pero what if na blackout or there are some problems? So, ang next one is you have your plan B. Your plan B is your traditional IMs. But hindi pa gani ka mo demo ka is merge ang duha, which is your traditional IMs plus the technology. I mean the gadgets, the computers, the sounds, and the videos mas nindot siya. Now, after the instructions, na important din ako i-discuss today is, after the instruction is teacher evaluates the outcome. So, kung wala ito nga, kung di ma-attain ang objectives, then you have to look at the steps or the process nga anong wala siya. And so, maybe I need to change something. So, if the instructional objective was not attained, kung what if dili, ano to, then the teacher diagnosis was not learned and finds out why it was not learned. So that, now, a remedial measure for improved students' performance and attain the instructional objective. So you're going to make changes or you're going to make a change nga tama on your steps here so that you can really achieve your objectives, achieve your goals. So again, students centered, we are helping the students in any way we can do possible. Now, the system approach to instruction is simple theory in theory but far from being simplistic in process. Hindi siya simple kaya ano man, if you have noticed, taas kay siya, daghang kay siya steps from defining objectives, what you want them to learn or what you want them to achieve. Then, what are the methods that you're going to use? Pili ka. Okay, what if kung wala gito? What if walay ang area dito kay walay kuryente? So, unsaan nimo pamaagi? Unsaan nimo pag unsay mga methods na gamiton nimo para mas more nimo you can achieve your objectives. And then, what are the things that gusto nimo ma-experience sa bata? So, knowledge, skills, and attitude man. So, what are the values? Especially the values na gusto nimo ma-learn sa bata while you are um, achieving your objectives. Then, yung material. So, dali lang sulod. What if ang area, walay TV? O nag-PowerPoint ka, walay TV? I mean, mag-PowerPoint ka tapos yung eskwelahan, walay TV, unsaan man nimo na. Walay pulos yung laptop. Pwede, laptop ka magklase, gamay kay screen. Dili mga, you cannot, dili siya, what if kung 30 ka estudyante, dili sud kayo. Then, no, no, to, you have to adjust. So, these are the steps na importante di kayo. Dili siya simple lang. Medyo complicated gamay. So it is just a matter of teaching of a matter of teacher formulating his or her lesson objective and then directly teaching the student. So gipabuhat mo lesson plan. So gibantayan jud nato ang learning competency gikan jud sa CG and also what is required from that grade level, that quarter, from the content standard and the performance standard. So, mo na ni diri na yung mga problema mo ning highlight nako is there are a lot of elements or factors that the teacher has to take into consideration. Example, the first one, the student needs. What are the needs of the students? The interest of the students, the home background, tagahang bata. What are the prior experiences sa bata na before teaching? So, na RPL or recognized prior learning. So, mag-inay na siya yung mga pre-test so that you know you can uh, test whether the students have knowledge before. Kasagaran kay daghang estudyante man. So, na iba na nakabalo na, na iba na wala. Then, you have to take note also what grade at the age that you are teaching. Grade 1 ba siya? Grade 7? So, you cannot use the grade 6 na lectures dito sa grade 1. Okay, like mas like example. And the nature and also the like. So, those are the factors that you have to take into consideration. The teacher in the choice of the most appropriate teaching method, the learning activity. So, one yung mga bantayan na ako sa yung lesson plan is ang mga activities. So, ang unang demo na to is learn using traditional IMs. Ang problema kay nagbutang og PowerPoint, nagbutang og video, so dili siya consider as traditional IMs. Again, you teachers, we teachers are required to do, you know, how to use your traditional IMs. Tinuod, mas nindot siya masabtan ang lesson kung na-take na ay videos na ay audios. But way back before, it was like that without any audio and video. So, but still, it was still worthwhile sa mga estudyante. The teachers find ways, so nag-print siya, so printed materials, nag-drawing siya para lang makita sa estudyante ang unsay gusto ang kwan because if the student can see a picture then they can imagine that one. Or like paminaw ka sa radyo na atong sunod na activities demo 2 is radio based man siya. You're really going to describe the situation or ang imong lesson. Then, you have also, what are the learning resources? So, yun ka na mag-PowerPoint ka, and then, mag-projector ka, then dito sa eskwelahan, walay projector. Kung saan man mo na, ang naa dito kay overhead projector lang. So, you have to take note what are the available resources. So, what if ito area wala internet? Dun saan na po di mo pagtudlo. Then, he considers the nature of her subject matter and the availability of resources, his and her capability. So again, you have to be an expert on that subject matter, not just the subject matter, the whole subject. The developmental stage of his students and of course her objectives. So always remember what are your objectives in that lesson. The body ma-achieve sa bata. His or her choice of assessment method for learning is likewise dependent on the lesson objective. So depende na sa imong objective ang imuhang gamiton na assessment method. So, the action on the teacher takes after getting assessment results based on the assessment results. So, kasagaran sa inyo ha, kay mahatag og sa inyong mga LPs, kay mahatag og mga quizzes. Mahatag ba, fill in the blanks mo na kasagaran. Kaya assignment, kay ang uban, common sa LP, kay the same assignment sa subject matter, ang uban kay gipa-research on the next topic. Pero mas tindot siya kung dili siya sa next topic. Katod yung kuan di lesson ng mga adlaw so that the supplemental knowledge learning sa bata practice. So, diri na mo sulod mo lagi na if the assessment results ni quiz sa bata or something nag-provide kag evaluation then wala na achieve ang objective mo na tong the acceptability of remedial measure to parents and students like madani. Do you have the passion to teach extra hours to students na naglisod? Kaya di man jud tanan. So, will an extra hour after the class devoted to tutorial be acceptable to students and parents concerned? So we teachers are really there to help students. So di man jud tanan na makuha in one setting alone ang objectives nimo. So saan yung pagtabang sa bata na they can get the kuan objective jud makuha nila. So what if mga 2 days, 3 sessions wala gihapon? So really have to ask na there's something wrong mo gito na yung background. Siguro ang bata dili katuon kay na yung mga problema sa balay. So you really have to talk to the student na ano man sa may problema nimo. Gang, so dili ka diri sa mga awang-away dayon. Kay basig kuan pod na problema. So sabtunon nimo mga bata. So mo lagi na as teachers, taas yung kay pasensya. So that covers the summary of chapter 4. The fifth one is one na niyang kasagarang gigamit nako is on the spot kanang actual mo yung kasagaran nako then later on will develop gusto na ko experience dito then later on we will react there are problems and there's the time I will at least you learn that one on you experience that one on your own. So chapter 5 is the icon of experience. So the objectives of chapter 5 is you have to discuss later on at the end of the lesson. You can discuss already what is cone of experience. What are the sensory aids in the cone of experience? So may panggamit niya na sensory like your eyes, your ears, and so on. Discuss the implication, wrong spelling, of the cone of experience to teaching. So dahil mga problems makuha implication sa cone of teaching cone of experience sa teaching so may magamit gigamit niya dito sa pagtudlo. So when you say cone, it is visually analogy. In this lesson we can remember there are 8 M's of teaching daw. So we have milieu, matter, method, material, media, motivation, mastery, measurement. So kaning sa cone experience ang nadiri is ang what they call this media and material. So I think nanin sa inyong principles of teaching na discuss naman siguro ni your milieu. I'm not sure the pronunciation of it one, but that's the learning environment. The matter is the content of learning. The method is the teaching learning strategy that the teacher is using. The material is the book or the resources of learning that you're using. The media is communication in teaching and learning, what you're going to use. Your motivation, the mastery, the arousing and sustaining interest in learning. And then we have the mastery is the be all and end all of learning. And the last one is getting the evidence of learning. So, muna itong mga evaluation, measurement. So, wait. Now, we have here, this is the cone of experience. This is the Dale's cone of experience. So, mura siya ice cream, inverted ice cream. Then, we have the low concrete, and here we have the abstract. The high-end part, that's the abstract. From the direct forceful experiences, contrived experiences, dramatized experiences, demonstration, field trips, exhibits, motion pictures, audio recording and photos, pictures, visual symbols, and the last one is abstract jud na dili na jud kuan. You're going to use mostly is your gamit yung utok na, your brain is libro, basa lang. So you're going to read this one is direct skills siya diretso. Ipa-hands-on mo. Dire is ipabasa pa mo. So the level of the degree of abstraction is mostly there is purely text lang or symbols. But this one is experiences din siya. Wala kayo dire basa. Diretso hands-on. So mostly na dire ang motor skills and also your attitude. Now, the Dale's cone of experience is a visual model that is comprised of 11 stages. So, muna ng 11 stages dali. Starting from the concrete, experience at the bottom and becomes more and more abstract as it reaches the peak of the cone. According to Dale, the arrangement of the cone is not based on the difficulty daw, but rather based on abstraction. So, dire mostly is we see and then we experience and we hear na dire jud ang tanang kuan, motor skills. But dire na sa basa lang, we see. Ibasa man tong symbol. verbal symbol man. And also sounds here also gyapon pero wala diri masyado ang skill ang experience. So the experience based on abstraction also the number of senses involved. So dire mas dagag senses ang sa ubos, dire lesser lang ang senses. Now the experience in its stages can be mixed and are interrelated that fosters more meaningful learning. So medyo connected sila tanan, mas more dali masabtan, interrelated sila. Mix, interrelated. Now, can you read na lang diri? Sa tabi. So, according to Dylan 1969 sa book niya, he asserts that the pattern of the bands of experience is not difficulty but degree of abstraction, the amount of immediate sensory participation that is involved. Like this one, a still photograph of a tree, a picture sa usa ka kahoy, is not more difficult to understand than a dramatization of Hamlet. Dali na mas kuan daw. Is that more difficult? Mas dali na masabtan. Pare-pareho po nagdrama sa tubangan nimo of Hamlet by Shakespeare. It is simply in itself a less concrete teaching material than a dramatization daw. So, pakita picture, dali masabtan ang kahoy, picture sa kahoy, na po not more difficult like compare sa usa ka drama sa usa ka play ni Shakespeare which is ang ngalan sa play is Hamlet. So, Dale further explains that the individual bands of the cone experience stands for experience that are fluid, intense, extensive, and continually interact. It should not be taken literally in its simplest form. Dili siya isa-isa, baka interrelated siya. The different kinds of sensory aid often overlaps. So, ang sapaw-sapaw na ako, kasagaran, diri sa kuan, diri sa imong forceful, direct forceful experiences, diri siya first degree jud ni na kuan na imong na experience. Ikaw jud ang naka-experience. Direct man. So, kung dili to second hand na ning kuan lang. Dire, pwede slightly na ikaw ning tan-aw lang ka. Dire, puro pwede ka ning tan-aw pero sa experience sa laing tao dire sa taas. Pero dire, direct jud mo na experience. So, for example, going up the tree or a mountain, ikaw ning saka, that's direct forceful experience. But when you are reading that one, you are walking that way, that's different. If you're watching somebody walking up a mountain, that's a different case. You can still see the experience pero indirect lang ka. Indirect sa imuha. Dili jud na ikaw ang nisaka. But when you're reading that one, that's another different thing. Kaya mostly nga, you are just reading it sa book and then nakabutang dito is you're walking up an tree, then you are there's the mountain is very steep and then there's a description on how you're going to walk sa mountain. So, motion pictures, like for example, can be silent and also it can be combined with sight and sound. So, students merely view a demonstration or they may view it then participate in it. Nindot ang kuan na experience sa bata. So, thus the cone experience mean that all teaching and learning must move systematically from base dili or from direct purposeful experience to verbal symbols. Tang no. Dili pasabot na dito jud sa ubos bang sugod, andi pasaka no. It's not like that or gikan sa taas. Combination nga siya eh. Interrelated. So, no, we continually shuttle back and forth among various kinds of experiences. Every day, each of us acquires new concrete experiences through walking on the street, gardening, dramatics, and endless other means. So, that's learning by doing. So, learning by doing, you're the one doing all the learning. Such pleasurable return to the concrete is natural throughout our lives. So, like for example, what you're doing now with Google Classroom is first time you in Google Classroom, first time you hunihan in, first time you tanan. Then later on, you'll be an expert. So that's why it's better to try as early as possible on learning the all the things that is needed on teaching sa mga apps. Mas nindot siya, it will also make your life, your teaching and learning a lot easier. So in our teaching, on the other hand, both older child and the young pupil makes abstraction every day and may need help in doing his this well because ang experience sa bata o sa dako is a bit different sa mga audience sa uban pod. So in our teaching then we do not always begin with direct at the base of the cone. We begin with the kind of experience that is most appropriate to the needs sa bata, abilities of the particular learner. So dili ka pwede na hands-on mo to. Example bata gilabay mo sa tubig kay gusto makatlog sa langoy, ah although some studies are doing it one bata, they are automatically mulutaw mo din sila sa bata, baby pa. Pero mo lagi na kung dako na mo, kung labay mo sa tubig, then you don't know how to swim, you don't know the basic swimming, then that's a different case. So, mo lagi na, the needs and abilities. That's why teachers, may utana dayon na, kabalo mo ani class, wala mo kabalo ani, aha mo taman, or ako sa manibaw ninyo. That's why, dili mo sulod ang mga remedial or mga tabang so that you can achieve your objectives. So, go directly to this one. Okay lang. Saan po natin isa-isa ni? The first one is, what are these bands of experience in Dale cone of experience? It is best to look back at the cone itself. At least let's expound kada isa. O lang direct dahil. Direct. Nagan, ikaw. So direct is concrete and first-hand experience that make up our foundation of learning. So for example, kung ikaw nagluto og rice, ikaw, that's direct. So nanugo ka, that's dili siya direct. So these are first-hand experience of ikaw, Joe, directly. Experience which serve as the foundation of our learning. So like for example, when you first cook rice, gituduan kasi mo ginikanan. You are learning that one. Pero pag na ikaw yung nagluto, I'm not sure, sure you ko na the first time that you cook your rice, nandiyo yung problema. Then later on, because of direct, forceful, pull experiences, na learn mo na you should be not doing this one, you should be doing this para sakto ang pagluto sa rice. So, our reservoir of meaningful information and ideas through seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling are five senses. In the context of teaching learning process is what we call is learning by doing. So, mo na to na uban expert lagi siya mo gitara, practice siya. Ang uban listening pod. So, mo na ni ang mga bata sindot siya kung magamit nimo daw, nindot siya magamit nimo ang almost all sensory pas dali masabtan sa bata, dili lang usa. Preferably two or three ka senses ang dapat gamiton para dili jud ang learning process sa bata is medyo paspas sa learning by doing. If I want my student to learn how to focus in a compound light microscope, I will let him focus one, and of course after I showed him how. Tumo na demo gyapon. So sa ako sa demo mostly kanang usahong paggamit sa app is na screenshot or tagantay kag video sa YouTube para dito ka makabalo sa akong paggamit sa app. So, ang direct purposeful experience is you're the one is having the experience. Good. The contrived experiences in here, we make use of a representative direct representative model or mock-ups of the reality for practical reasons so that we can make a real life accessible to students perceptions and understanding. So for instance, a mock-up of Apollo, you know what's Apollo? Satellite. Ito lang i-search daan satellite na niadto sa moon. So, capsule for moon, Apollo 13. Try to see ito, ni buto. Daghang klaseng Apollo god. So, katong wala pa, so karon mayon ko na wa pa kabalo unsa nang satellite, katong for those students who doesn't like science. So, para madali masabtan ninyo, you have this one. So, mo ni mga astronauts, kani sila, mo ni mga satellites na nasa. So, this is an outer space. So, there's a movie on Apollo 13. So, this is satellite. I mean, spacecraft. Ning koan. So, this is already astronaut in the moon. So yung anak mo, I think it was around 1969 or 1970s. So, for instance, ang mock-up of Apollo, magdala ka dito spaceship sa mong klase, the capsule for the observation of the moon enabled the North America abbreviation to study the problem of the lunar flight. Kano na ni buto, but it was, I think, gamay ito computer, may nakabikil. O ito ni buto ang Apollo. Pero, for ning kon, yun siya katong before, prior niya, okay man. So, remember how you were taught to tell time. So, mo to, dali na sabtan ang Apollo kay nagdala siya og satellite dito sa classroom. So, the students will have an idea like what I did now. Instead of mock-up, I show you na picture, but pero mas nindot siya kung naka-mock-up na drawing you go. Motong akong gihatag sa IMs ninyo is na ay video. Na ay siya yung murag actual na computer. Pwede ko magbuhat og actual sa MIL sa high school, sa senior high. One of the projects of the students, one of the performance tasks nila is to create a computer out of recycled materials. So, monitor, nabuhat sila to. It is a mock-up of actual computer. So, it was, there are the high school students, senior high, were very creative. So, a mock-up will help you sa pag-explain sa mong klase. Pero mo lagi na, ang common problem sa mga estudyante, ang mga maestra is tapulan mo buhat o mock-up. Tapulan mo effort o design. But still, the students will be, the learning of the students is a lot simpler if there are those things. So, experience. So, gipagunitan mo sa miniaturized version sa usa ka satellite, nindot na siya. So, remember how you were taught to tell time. So, yung sa mga itudloan yung paghihap sa oras, sa pagkuhan sa oras, tell time. Your teacher may have used your mock-up, a clock whose hands you could turn to set the time you were instructed. So, unsa nang kuhan? Mock-up, para lang sa wala kabalo, ato ipakita. So, na may dulaan na relo, tapos pwede ma-adjust yung mga orasan. That's how you teach the children for those sa elementary. Sa pag so tuyok ko nimo na siya, they will tell time. So gunitan sa bata, mo tong tuyok na dayon. So tuyok kon by hand and then pwede na siya mahibawan mo tell time diretso. So dali ra. So compare tong patanawon. So lihok-lihok kon jud sa bata ang oras. So this is contrived experiences na i-mock up. So, mostly ang sa contrivances kay simulation, specimen, objects, mock-up models, and games. So that they will have second-hand experience on the actual thing. Then, we have now is the third one is the dramatized experience. By dramatization, we can participate in a reconstructed experience even though the original event is far removed us in time. So, I mean, before, if you want to simulate or dramatize the pole of Bataan or the katong tearing of Sidula by Aldis Bonifacio in your Araling Palipunan, pwede po na siya. So, the students will have a costume. Dramatization. So, we relieve the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution by acting the whole characteristic of drama. So, ang yaning koan. So, this is one of your assignment later on. Ginagmay raman siya. Drama raman ginagmay. Short lang. Short na drama. 1 minute na video. Para sa online ni mo na koan, klase. Present, dramatize information on your certain topic sa imong lesson. I-drama man siya, so ikaw mo drama with, kung makaya nimo with costume, nindot. So, wala siya TikTok na kuan, pero ikaw lang nagkuan diri, nagbalin ka diri, balin na ka diri, cutting, editing, video editing. So, one of the requirements na siya sa imong port demo, dapat nakakaana. Kaya ikaw mo yung nag-act as kuan, estudyante. Dili ka mo ngita sa YouTube. Ikaw yung mag-kuan. Sa usas mga, usa lang po sa requirement. Kaya na. Now, mostly on sa ubang kuan, dali is kani demonstration. It is a visualized explanation of an important fact, idea, or process by the use of photographs. So, katong mga literature, you will see videos and then videos, drawings. Pero kani siya kay kuan man picture man kay demonstration. Drawing films, drawing films. Guided motions, it is also showing how things done. So, like sa computer, I will give them a code, ipakita na ako, and then later on sila na yung buhat. So from disassembling a computer to assembling a computer. So sila kipakita na ko daan, and sa don'ts and do's, and then kuan, tanaw siya sa kuha. So it is showing how things are done. A teacher in PE shows the class how to dance the tango. So kani para ani simulation of CPR ang bata. Then kani may lingaw para sa estudyante, which is ang unsa man, unsa may tawag ani? Ang tawag ani kay field trip. So I'm sure kamuta na experience siguro ani kami. I think when I was in Sacred Heart, we had our field trip in Tangum, a science kuan, a science di ko sure sa to siya na science na kuan. But na-experience ako dito ang physics ug ang chemistry ug ang katong mga bolang kristal na inigunit na ko motindo kong buhok. Those were the days sa high school. So muna to field trip. Then sa college na muna tong field trip at you will experience a lot of things. Muna to makita ang bata og katong zoo, they will really see na what's an what do you call this? What's an elephant look like, or a giraffe or a tiger na wala na nakitaan sa kuan. So these are excursions and visits conducted to observe an event that is unavailable within the classroom. So imagine comparing your kuan, imong klase na naka tanaw ra kag TV o class, this is a zoo. Tanaw mo sa YouTube mo sa TV. Compared to the experience na adto jud sa zoo as zoo, and then kita niya mga animals. Is that mas nindot siya compare siya usa ka kuan lang, usa ka video na imong gipakita sa TV. Una to nindot ang direct purposeful. Then we have our exhibits. So these are displays to be seen by spectators. They may consist of working models arranged meaningfully or photographs with models and charts. So exhibits just kuan lang kanang you can still touch them, manipulate the objects, pero di yun na kuan, pwede dadon sa balay. So they will just showcase kung sa mga trabaho. For example, sa inyong senior high school naman siya, for example, ipakita tanang salida sa MIL, tanang trabaho sa science, especially science fair, na ipakita ito nga volcano. Those are some of the things na sa exhibits. So mostly, sa science ni siya, ang sarang si gamit ani. So, again, importante kayo ang sensory experiences. So, ikaw daw, makita ang volcano, ng lihok na kuan, ng buto na volcano, pero, kung grade 7 ka, mashock ka, malingaw ka. Pero kung ikaw ang college, tanaw na, wala effect. Because you know already the process on how the volcano erupted sulod sa kuan katong peke na volcano. But sa usa ka bata, ang experience niya mas more manggod masabtan sa bata kung nakita o na-experience niya. Labaw na patong kuan na sounds. So kaning next one is I'm sure common kini sa inyo ha. Labaw na sa mga ginikanan na tudluan ng mga bata or kamo I'm sending you videos on how to use certain apps sa kuan sa atong klase, and you go to YouTube. But this one is the television and motion pictures are so TV and then recorded or motion pictures masalida can reconstruct the reality of the past. So daghang kay salida sa internet na for example, there's a movie about Rizal. There's a movie about Bonifacio, Juan Luna. So those are reenactments sa actual na kuan based on books, and you'll get the glimpse of noon sa nahitabo o sa kinabuhi nila. So reenactment. So the unique value of the messages communicated by the film television lies in the feeling of realism. So mo nang ilang kasagaran with all the costumes and with all the balay na daang balay, then all the kuan effects na murag duty tinuod. Their emphasis on persons and personality, their organized presentation, and their ability to select and dramatize, highlight, and clarify. So kasi karan mo kuha nila mga artista, ikato yung parehog naong with all the makeup. So, dako kay siyang katabang ang television motion picture na again sa ARPAN just to kuan ang kanang mga daang salida o daang kinabuhi sa bang tao mapakita. Reconstruct man of the past. So, there is a picture. We have your Sesame Street sineskwela. This is Matang Lawin. All about educational movies, shows We have Honesto, Batibot, and Knowledge Channel. So these are the Honesto is a series on ABCBN, but it's explaining being honest as a person, the values. So there's a lot of movies and TV shows that teaches good things. Now, si Buhat sa Bata and also kani. So, ako sa una, I think science. That's why I love almost everything. Gikan sa news to Discovery to National Geographic. O ako lingaw yun. Kundi TV, encyclopedia. Muna ako ang kasagarang basahon. Later na itong mga novels o mga kuan. Dako na ako sa Second Heart. Gihapon. Now, the still pictures from the word still wala ning lihok. So, recording radio. So, these are visual auditory. Auditory, your ears, may be used by an individual or a group. Still pictures lack the sound, motion of a film. The radio broadcast of an actual event may often be like to a televised broadcast minus the visual dimension. So, nag-broadcast sa radio. So, yung ipangbuhat niya pero audio lang. So, sa imong demo 2, this is what you're going to do. You create a script out of your lesson plan na imong gipas para sa demo 1. So, gituyo na niya, lesson demo 1, demo 2, demo 3, demo 4. Gisulti ng ordaan, you'll be using the same subject matter, the same lesson plan. So, kung nag-research ka sa internet, then ay mo nakita mo na itong lesson plan, sure ko ana walay script ana para sa lesson 2, para sa imong video base. Pero na siya PowerPoint magamit sa demo 4. You can use that one. Then, sa listening material, so kasagaran, kani sa radio base ang problema. So, you really have to create your own script out of your lesson plan. So, na ito yung video sa YouTube. So, kaya niyo na. Sa Google Classroom, na kung gihatag, kaya niya na. Para lang ma-bot itong script. So, effort. Then, we have the visual symbols. So, color, mga bata. So, they are no longer realistic, abstract, sa actual, like this one. So, representation lang siya. No longer realistic reproduction of physical things. For these are highly abstract representation like charts, graphs, maps, and diagrams. So, katong mga color lang, but that, not the actual. So, for example, tagaan na tika og kuan, like kato ganina, kita mo mong Apollo. What if tagaan ta mo og Apollo na cartoon na picture, so, yung ana, this one, kung tagaan ka ana, that's a different one sa actual. So, this is a cartoon version sa Apollo. So, lahi siya. So, visual symbol lang siya. Then, we have the last one, na ni ang libro. Sarantics, libro. Verbal symbol. So, these are not like objects or ideas for which they stand. They usually do not contain visual. So, akong question sa inyo guys, hilig ba mo basa na words lang? Or katong libro na words with pictures? Or katong libro na pictures lang? So, kung ako'y pumunta lang sa kuha na part is, I like books na walay picture. Mas nindot siya, mas more matrain ang imuhang brain to imagine things. Mas more man imo makuan. Based sa how the author writes the situation, describe niya, mas more mudagan ang imong auto. Imagination, increase imagination. So they usually do not contain visual clues to their meaning. Written words fall under this category. It may be a word or a concrete object, book, an idea, freedom of speech, or scientific principle like this one. So these are just examples of a visual symbols siya. So, kaya lagi na sa inyo ha. So, what are the implications sa con of experience in the teaching learning process? We do not use only one medium in communication in isolation. Rather, we use many IMs, instructional materials to help the students conceptualize. Kung natong ingon ni Miss Kuan, Miss Ira, nindot ang iyang literature kung naay video or sounds o katong mga picture. Tinuod, I will agree to that one. Because muli na you are using 2 to 3 more sensory na so ang learning sa estudyante medyo dali masabtan. So we avoid teaching directly at the symbol level. So meaning kani avoid siya tagaan mong libro ikaw basa Some of the kids do not know the meaning of the words. Some of the kids do not know how to read. Muna assist pa nimo. Muna ang uban laglom dayon uban tapulan mong basa. Muna tong diri mo sulod si pictures, experiences para later on nigbasa sa imuhang verbal symbol sa libro no sabtan na dayon. So, like sa kuha, ipa-experience mo dayon sample ana dayon inig kamo na nagbuhat, mas dali siya nasabtan. Labaw na tong unang introduce na ako sa content standard o sa performance standard, tapos sinugdanan, libog siya, wa makabaloon sa ng LC code, dayon. Pero later on, sige, basa sig research, ang uban po, ning tanaw sa katong mga lesson plan kay, usara may Google Sheet ni nato, so makita po nila. So later on, katong nagkuan lang, katong mga stalkers sa GC, then tanong-tanaw lang sa istorya, they had an idea what was a code that was asking. So, mo lagi na, later on karon kabalo maayo na kabalo na mo sa pagbuhat sa lesson plan with the LC using the code, learning competency code and the content standard and performance standard. Pero napayuban na wala pa hinahinay hindi ta magdali. So students concepts will lack deep roots in direct experience. So mo gina duha na kasagaran, i-share the actual, i-back up nimo og theory para ang ma-explain sa actual nganong ingano to siya, nganong iato nahitabo. So one ang imutudlo ko sa computer is testingan sa actual, then later ano ni error to siya, that's the time I will insert the theory na dito ma-realize sa bata na mo dito dahil ano yung sayop dito siya kanaday kulang and so on and so forth. So Dale cautions us when he said this ruthless experience will not have a generative power to produce additional concepts and will not be able to learn the learner to deal with new situation that he faces. So ang problema ko sa skills is limited lang siya kung di unsay nahitabo. Pero kung dito sa theory part is there are possible things unsay mahitabo, and then pwede mo na to na simulation gusto ka different na earthquake drill, na pile drill for example. So different simulation, so different ang kuan experiences. Kay wala gina. In one problem there's always there's always a lot of ways to solve one problem rather. Dayon kung usaray pamaagi piminti gamit nimo, then dili siya pwede. Una ingon si Dale, the learner will not be able to generate a new solution kung mo stick lang siya ato. Manang ingon kasi sila, experience, soroy laag dito tanan, experience tanan so that you will know what is really life. So if you're going to compare, if you're going to compare yourself or a estudyante na working student o dili working student, mas daghang experience ang estudyante na working student samot na kung ang estudyante siya nagpiskwela siyang kaugalingon, ang trabaho pa siya pa siya tabang siyang pamilya. Compared to a student nagsalig siyang ginikanan, nagtuon pod gyapon. Pero their life experiences is a bit different. If you remember the viral video katong bata na nagkuan nagbasak dito sa Surigao. So ang experience niya sa bata og sa kuan, uban tingala siya anong eskwela, ang uban wala. So there are certain situations sa mo lagi na di na ta maka-generate og bag-ong solutions kay tungod kay specific kayo ang usa ka experience. So when teaching, we do not get stuck in the concrete. Let us strive to bring our students to the symbolic abstract level to develop si HATS. Importante si HATS. Bawal pwede sugod sa LATS, then later on si HATS na dayon. So that because we want the students to develop their own critical thinking skills, their problem solving skills, their analyzing skills. One na kuan dili lang memorize then specific. One na abstract level. So imagine if you give them a manual. So like for example, how do you operate a TV? Tagal kag manual how to operate a TV. Pero kung dito ta sa kuan sa there is a steps ni kuan, so tuduan kaniya usag steps sa kuan. So pag-on sa TV, di palit ka bagong TV assuming lang, tuduan kanya unsa pag-on sa TV, dayon unsa pag-off TV, unsa pag-change channel. But there are some menus na wala gi-explain. So those are your direct forceful experiences from the operator o nagbaligya sa imong TV. Pero when you read the manual, that's already in the abstract. you will know that there are certain menus that was not discussed dito sa pagbaligya sa TV. Then dito ay nindot di siya kay may pwede di siya maka Netflix and so on and so on. Pwede di ko anong butag password. So pwede ko maka-change yung maka internet di ko di ay. So ang ana kay naman sa manual sa TV. Unsay mahitabo. Troubleshooting na po na dito. So lahi jud ang direct force fall. So depends upon the situation, depends sa kuan. So, but still, we want to bring the students to this higher part ng abstract and textual. So, gikan yun diri. Pinaka-basic, gikan, butan to gikan diri. Nalito dito na dayon. So, we want to bring the students to the higher order thinking skills. So, mo na gina, mao po na sa inyo ha. Gitudluan mo kanang taga-assist ko ninyo unsa ka magbasa sa LP, unsa gusto na ko mahitabo sa inyong mga lesson plan o sa inyong mga activities dayon kuan because I want you to develop your higher order thinking skills. Dili inyo mag-copy and paste, dili lang magkuan and create. I want you to create your own lesson plan na on your own without taga kag libro, taga kag CG. Then create your own lesson plan. Kuhat ya na using the IM lahi putong video. Dili tanang lesson nasa internet pero karon mostly online naman so mostly na siya pero uban na bayad. So unsa man na So, imagine na ang lesson plan is your weapon for your say for your class. Ang CG mo ito yung mahulog Bible nimo pero mo lagi na ang lesson plan mo gamit yun nimo sa kada klase kay kung if you don't have a lesson plan then mag-ambak ka kasi yung lesson. Dugay mahitabo. Dani sa chapter 7 sa next module but i-introduce na ko daan. After 2 weeks daw, we tend to remember after 2 weeks, 10% of what we read. Gamay rin no, reading. So, sabi nga sa kuan ni Confucius is I see and I forget, I hear and I remember, I do and understand. Skills. After 2 weeks, 20% of what we hear, ma-remember na ko. After 2 weeks, 30% of what I see, ma-remember na ko. Pero kung gwapo-gwapa niya bay, I remember gyapon. After 2 weeks, we tend to remember mostly the 50% of what we hear and see. So, one itong hearing words, seeing, and this one, watching a movie. Looking at an exhibit, watching a demonstration, seeing the location. So, tanog sa lida, mga after 2 weeks, you can still recall some parts of the scenes of the movie. Then, after 2 weeks, we tend to remember 90% of we say and do. Muna to, nagdrama ka, ikaw nagdrama. Ikaw nag-simulate sa real experience, then doing the real thing, ikaw dyan nagbungkag computer, mas dugay, mas, for example, ikaw mo bubungkagon to mo computer, mo itong wala na itabo sa living IT era, dili man ta online, dili man ta face-to-face ng klase. So, ang experience man ko kay mas more direct, mas more ma-remember. So, more sensory, sa sensory na gigamit, mas more ang learning. But still, we want to bring the students to the higher abstract the higher order thinking skills. Now, we have here Jerome Bruner, his three-tiled model of learning. So, time na, 48 minutes. So, we'll continue na lang this one because already 7 o'clock in the evening. So, we'll continue this one tomorrow, Saturday. And then, para mahuman na po, makasugod na po ko sa 6. And then, ma-discuss na ako ang para sa preparation sa inyong IMs na mo dire. Na namin nagsugod. Pero di hata na mo daan eh. So, we have an idea how you're going to evaluate your instructional materials. So, after this, so next week, 14, ihatag lang po na ako ang module 7. So, by Saturday o tomorrow, humuna ko discuss chapter 6. Then, by Monday, magsugod na ko sa chapter 7, 8, 9, then 10. Naputi ko sa na-part sa syllabus na ako pa na ako ng tackle. It's very important na i-discuss pa na to. Alam, i-explain ito on Monday. So, salamat. Thank you and good evening.